everyone, and welcome to another episode of Traditionally Speaking. My name's Tom, and I'm being joined today with my friend Joe as we discuss with you something that's close to many of our hearts, Christmas cookies.
Oh, portraying Santa for over 20 years, I have to tell you that Christmas cookies are an integral part of being Santa Claus, and especially in this country. And it had an interesting start. Basically, it really, we've gotten cookies from all over Europe. And traditionally, we started with the gingerbread, and once things like cinnamon and different flavorings came into being, of course, the Christmas cookies just expanded. And then we started adding fruit and different things. But as far as actually putting cookies out for Santa, which everybody knows about in the United States, that basically began in the 1930s during the Great Depression. And it was a way for families to say that no matter how tough times are, you need to celebrate your blessings and you need to be grateful for what you have. And I'll tell you what, I think that's still important today. But the way that they demonstrated that is they had the kids put out cookies for Santa to thank him for the blessings he was going to bestow on their family. So, boy, I'll tell you, and it is still going on today. I can't tell you how many pounds I gain every year. But this is something that is more a United States kind of thing than it is in Scotland, isn't it, Tom?
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that actually, because here in Scotland, Christmas Day wasn't a bank holiday until the 1950s. And Boxing Day, the day directly after Christmas Day, didn't become a bank holiday until the 1970s. So a lot of the modern traditions to do with Christmas didn't really start to take shape until a bit later over here. But certainly, yes, kids over here now, they will leave out a glass of milk for Santa, some biscuits, and usually some carrots for Rudolph as well.
And sometimes they leave me Guinness. And mince pies.
Well, I
Yes.
think we could have an entirely different podcast about mince pies.
And we'll get to that. Tom, you mentioned Boxing Day. And if you would, still, most people in the United States are not familiar with that at all. And we'll get into a full podcast on Boxing Day. But go ahead and give a short explanation of what that is, when it is, and why you celebrate it.
Yeah, of course. Boxing Day is, traditionally speaking, the day directly after Christmas Day, and it got its name, or it's thought to have got its name, because sort of landowners of the time would give their servants, such as the butler or the maid or the footman, a box, a Christmas box, to thank them for having done their duty during Christmas Day. So Boxing Day, in essence, would be their day off, or the closest thing that they would get to a day off. And that's when they would receive their Christmas box, hence the name. Now, fast forward to the 21st century, and it's slightly different because it's generally seen now as being the day when you will go out to get bargains at sales at the shops. It's the closest thing that Scotland has to Black Friday.
Yeah, and we have that. Obviously, we have the Christmas sales immediately after Christmas, and a lot of the stores open at ungodly hours. So, but getting back to Boxing Days, if you're a fan of Downton Abbey, I'm sure you have seen Boxing Day. And in case you were wondering where that all came about, now you know, thanks to Tom. So, but yeah, so Boxing Day is a much bigger thing than like even putting out Christmas presents on Christmas Eve, like it is here in the US. So again, it's amazing how different these two countries are and the way they celebrate. But getting back to the Christmas cookies, oh my heavens, I mean, they've come from every part of Europe you can imagine. I mean, it started with the traditional gingerbread back even before the night, well before the 1930s, like in the 1800s. And of course, the sugar cookies came into being, and then pretty soon we were getting cookies, the cookies from Holland and Netherlands and that type of area were filtering into the US. And now, my gosh, I can't even mention all the Christmas cookies that I see. Everything from toffee bars, lemon bars, chocolate chip, sugar cookies, I and on and on and on and but it has become, and everybody has fun doing it. And what's really great is to see families, especially, parents and their kids making cookies together. And I'm often asked as Santa Claus, what's my favorite cookie? And I have a very simple answer for this. It's the one that you make me. I mean,
Mm.
I absolutely love all the different kinds of cookies and all the different kinds of flavors. And it's nice to get a nice variety. Of course, I have an affinity toward chocolate chip, but there are a lot of other ones that I love as well. So for those that do make your own cookies, thank you for doing that every year. And what a terrific tradition that is with the families. And it's nice to hear it's picking up in Scotland now.
Yes, absolutely. Because there's so many different ways of finding cookies, eating cookies, whether you want to make them yourself, like you've mentioned, or whether you want to buy them from supermarkets or specialist shops. Because one of the big things in Scotland and in the United Kingdom generally is Christmas markets. And I know that that's something we can talk about in another podcast. But
Oh,
generally
yes.
speaking, we get these European markets where all sorts of different produce is available. Sometimes things like gingerbread, these great Christmas culinary traditions. But cookies are something that's now starting to come into the market. As you mentioned, chocolate chip cookies. You get sometimes a little bit of cinnamon in them at Christmas just to give it that little festive flavour.
Oh, and I
Um,
love cinnamon.
so I mean, there's all sorts of different varieties, and that's the beauty of it. Is every year there seems to be something slightly different out there. One of my favourites just now is they do a Bakewell tart cookie, which I don't know if you have Bakewell tarts in America, but basically it's like a kind of marzipan and jam type of
No, I'm
combination.
not familiar with that.
Oh, it's very nice. If you like marzipan, you'll love these.
Well, who doesn't like marzipan? It's so wonderful. Do they do this in other parts of Europe that you're aware of, Tom?
I would say so many different parts of Europe have their own traditions, but cookies are definitely one thing that you will find in so many different places. You will find them in places like Germany, for instance, which of course is very famous for its gingerbread. You will find them in places like Scandinavia, where there are all sorts of different culinary traditions. So yes, definitely there are all sorts of different things you can try in different places. But why just stop with cookies? I mean, there are so many different things you can try in places like Italy and in France and in Spain. And when you have these European markets coming around different parts of Europe, particularly at Christmas time, there's no reason why not to sample all of the different things that are on display.
Well, and it's amazing in the US. I mean, something as simple as a Christmas cookie cutter, which of course you see now, and oh my gosh, you can get Christmas trees and reindeer and snowmen and so on and so forth. But it's funny, but between the years of 1871 and 1906, you couldn't even get a Christmas cookie cutter here because the cheap imported products coming from Germany flooded the market that they stopped allowing it to import them. So it wasn't until the early 1900s again that you could even get a Christmas cookie cutter. And
Hmm.
so since then, I mean, obviously, uh, they've decorated Christmas trees with them. They certainly put them out, and of course, it's always nice to have cookies when friends and relatives drop by. So and this is one of our traditions that I gotta say I never tire of every year. Especially again, all those different varieties. But
Yeah.
and again, it's a nice, fun family tradition, and that's something that I think we need more of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the beauty of it, because if you want to buy them pre-packaged, you're never going to want for different varieties, different flavors coming up every year. But if you want it to be a nice social activity with your friends or your family, as you say, they've got you covered there as well. There are kits you can buy. You can make them traditionally with ingredients, perhaps from the internet or from a family recipe book. There are just so many different ways to enjoy it as a tradition.
Oh, that's a great idea. Family recipes and tell us, all of our listeners, boy, I'll tell you, if you have a favorite or if you have a family recipe you would love to share, we'd love to hear about that. I mean, see if can they contact us somehow, Tom?
Yeah, why not? Absolutely,
Go
yes.
ahead and give them that information, how they contact us. I think it'd be wonderful. Boy, we could start a recipe sharing thing with Christmas cookie. We could start with Christmas cookies and go from there. But
Yeah.
boy, yeah, because we're going to be talking about so many different kinds of foods. We already briefly mentioned things like mince pies, but like bannock cakes
Mhm.
and what's the name of that tart that you guys have? Or
Eckelfecken tarts, that's right.
Eckelfecken tart. I can't wait to hear about that. And of course, Christmas cake and figgy pudding and that's even before we get into the main events like the turkey and ham.
Yeah.
But yeah, we would love to see some of your recipes or some of your favorites. So again, I apologize, Tom, I kind of cut you off, but how do they contact us and let us know their favorite recipe?
Well, there will be a contact email address in the description for the podcast, and people can send in their emails that way.
I'd love to see this, and boy, I'll tell you, we might even talk about some of these recipes we get, on the podcast, because I'll bet you there's a lot of people that say, "Ooh, I wouldn't mind trying that one."
Yeah, I think there's at least one, if not more, podcasts to go with that particular idea.
Oh, yes. And again, the whole point of this is to keep our traditions alive. And traditionally speaking, is all about the Christmas traditions, both past and present, and to continue and to share different traditions from different countries and make your Christmas more fun and more interesting every year.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's the important thing, isn't it? To know that traditions sometimes are things that we haven't even discovered yet. And yet, that could be a big tradition for us in the years to come.
And if you think about when you were growing up, what your family did, or if there was something particular that you looked forward to every year, imagine your kids. And if you have certain traditions and you keep, bringing that out every year, that's going to be a memory that they have and share with your grandkids, with your great grandkids, and so on and so forth. And, we can keep this going as long as we can celebrate Christmas, and I don't see any reason why we can't celebrate Christmas every year.
Because Christmas is what you make it, isn't
It's
it?
absolutely what you make of it. And and the more fun you have, the more enjoyable you are. And I'll tell you what, it takes away some of that other holiday stress that's going on. So nothing like making cookies in the kitchen to kind of help reduce the stress. And it's one of those physical things where you're not worried about everything in front of you. You're just worried about the recipe or worried about, how it's going to turn out. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Yeah. Of course, the perfect accompaniment to your favorite Christmas album or your favorite Christmas movie. It's one of these things, a Christmas cookie, you can never go wrong with it.
Well, and again, Tom mentions a couple more podcasts we're going to have. We're going to talk about movies. We're going to talk about Christmas dinners. We're going to we got lots of subjects, folks. So keep tuning in because you never know what we're going to talk about next. But whatever it is, it's going to be very interesting. And it may start a new tradition in your house, whether you're in Scotland or whether you're in Alabama, like I am right now. So, but we're going to have fun with this. So, Tom, what's your favorite Christmas cookie?
For me personally, it's got to be white chocolate chip.
White chocolate chip. Oh,
That's a
well,
Christmas tradition that you can enjoy all year round.
well, and my wife loves macadamia nut in her chocolate chip too. So, and then here again, that's the kind of fun thing you can do. You can take a chocolate chip. A chocolate chip isn't always a chocolate chip. It can have many other things in it. So I've had cinnamon chips in them, which are wonderful. I've had like mint chips and different, I mean, just chocolate chips alone, I can probably list off about 7 or 8 different varieties off the top of my head. But that's the fun of this, is you don't have to follow a set and sure recipe every time. You can make up your own. So, and add what you want to it, and then make it your tradition.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? Because everyone has a different taste, and everyone has a different, set of traditions that they like to follow at Christmas. And this could be part of anyone's Christmas tradition.
Yeah, I agree with you entirely on that. And, and it just, so it's nice to hear that, even in Scotland, this is starting to spread. And of course, if you go to, as Tom mentioned earlier, if you go to Germany, or you go to Holland, well, my God, they've been making cookies for centuries and, spreading them around. So, and a lot of the cookies we have today came from those areas and more. So again, I would love to hear from different people about what your favorite is, or your favorite family recipe. That'd be a lot of fun to share with our listeners. Well, I don't know about you, Tom, but I think I'm going to go to the kitchen and make myself something.
Well, there's never a bad time of day for a cookie.
It never is there? Well, folks, I'm so glad you joined us in for this little podcast episode. And, again, keep listening, because, boy, I'll tell you, there's so many different things we're going to talk about. And it's just fun to hear the differences between our two countries and other countries besides. So that just about wraps it for me, Tom. Do you have anything to finish with?
Just to say thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Wherever you happen to be, it's great to have joined you today to talk about Christmas, and I hope that you'll be back again to join us in the near future.
And by the way, if there's something that you think we've missed, or that we haven't talked about, feel free to contact us at that email that Tom talked about, and we'll address it. I mean, we if we don't know about it, we'll learn about it. So, so thanks for tuning in, and thanks for staying with us on this.
Thanks very much for joining us, everyone. Hope to speak to you again soon.
Have a lovely day. Bye-bye now.